Jen, you're going to control the slides? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for getting together. It's been a while since there's been a CFO, and I know that tends to create some anxiety, but I just wanted to start out first by acknowledging some people that I know have really stepped up since Bill has left, and that being Tim, Phyllis, Fergus, Jen, Jonathan, and he's not on this, but Gerhard, I know he really had to step in and work directly with each of them to make sure that the business as usual is running properly. There's a lot of projects going on, and each of your departments will know exactly what I'm talking about. And also just from a morale standpoint, I know over the last year plus there's been a lot of changes that have been going on. That can be very disruptive to people. We're hoping that as pieces come together, that things can settle down a little bit, that we can focus, that we can stay focused on our priorities and our goals. And hopefully with my coming in now, that's just a step in the right direction at this point. So Jen, I guess if you can go to the slides, we're not seeing it on this end.
Does someone have a presentation screen up there, or did we ditch it in our mock?
It got ditched over here.
Okay. I bet it's on that computer right there on the table, but that doesn't help you too much.
Hit the link.
It's on the WVC.
Open the WVC on the bottom right.
There we go.
Are any of the other offices seeing it? I assume the WVC can.
We're good, Jen.
Yeah.
We got it.
Okay, perfect. I'm still getting used to the technology, so it's all new to
So are
me.
we, and now it's about to
Well, I only just got active on WBC today, so. But if you can go to the next slide. Okay. I thought I'd just spend a little time. Again, this is going to be very informal, but I just thought I'd give you a little bit of background of myself. Not my complete resume, but I'm out on LinkedIn if anyone wants to take a look. So I've been working for about 29 years. I grew up in Western New York, went to a small school out there, and then I moved to New York City and started with in public accounting at Deloitte Haskins and Sells. Stayed 3 years, got my CPA, and decided that I wanted something a little bit smaller. I went to a company called First City Industries, which was a real estate holding company. Did a lot of operational work. I was an office manager, but felt that I had moved too far to a smaller company and decided that I needed something a little bit more challenging, and went over to, it was actually Shearson Lehman at the time, into financial reporting, dealing with 10Qs, 10Ks. Worked through an S1, which is taking a public company public. Lehman was the piece that went public. Shearson went over to American Express. After that S1, I decided that I needed a little more understanding of how Lehman was making money. So I moved to the middle office and supported the front office and got some great experience there. It was in that role that I got my first exposure to dealing with derivatives. The desk that I was supporting did a lot of total return swaps and other derivatives. And based on that experience, I was recruited out of Lehman to go to Gen Re Financial Products, which is a subsidiary of Gen Re. They were expanding more into structured transaction deals that are primarily tax-driven. They needed to put a lot of controls around that, so they wanted someone with some derivatives experience, but also financial reporting and other control experience. I was lucky enough when I joined Gen Re Financial Products that same year is when Berkshire Hathaway bought Gen Re. Mr. Buffett made his famous statement of derivatives are financial weapons of mass destruction, so that didn't bode well for my subsidiary, and was soon put into runoff. But luckily, the CFO that I was reporting to at that time was pulled up to Gen Re Corporate as their CFO, and he brought me up as their global controller. That was about 2003. So my first real experience into reinsurance and insurance started in 2003, and my role continued to expand over the next 10 years, 11 years or so, and I took on responsibility initially for P&C reinsurance, then primary insurance, and then the last 3 years I had life, health, P&C, and primary. GenRe was a great company. Probably the biggest thing, my biggest concern with GenRe is certainly as compared to Swiss Re, in my experience of all of a week and a couple of days, is that GenRe is very, they're not doing a lot of new business. They do a lot of renewal business. They do, on the reinsurance side, they do some new business, but on the primary side, they're really not. On the life health side, they are not. They're just an in-force book of business, which can be challenging in itself with a lot of issues. But certainly not doesn't pique your interest in looking at new business, and that was something that I was interested in, and thus my move over to Swiss Re, and a perfect opportunity for me. Go to the next slide, maybe just to give you a little bit of some personal information. 50 years old. This past May, I was married. Hit my 25th wedding anniversary to my wife Michelle. We have 4 kids. And being a finance person, I had to do it exactly as it looks there every 2 years. It wasn't exactly planned that way, but we were very lucky. I live in Cortland Manor, which is about 30 minutes away. 3 of those children are in college right now. So getting a job here at Swiss Re is very beneficial in that regard as well. Okay, next slide. Again, very informal, but just kind of give you an idea of my management style, and some of you have already experienced it over the last week. Obviously, we are a professional organization, so there's high expectations, and anyone who's dealt with Gerhard certainly gets a sense of that in how he handles and presents himself. It's going to be no different for us, and I'm sure it has been that way already. Just going to continue more of the same. I like to balance that with being very respectful. We all have lives outside of work, and our work is demanding. We have to find the right balance between work and life, and while we may not always be there, just given the nature of our business and the timing of when we have to get things done, but it's something that we can strive for and continue to improve on. What goes along with both of those is career and talent development. I think it's extremely important, especially in this industry, that we focus on career development, and that goes hand in hand with identifying people that have skill sets that can lend itself, whether it's going to be on the life health side, P&C side, specialty lines. We need to continuously look at our people, the areas where if they're not getting the right experience, that we're looking to get them the right experience. If they don't have the right skill sets, that we're getting them exposure to things that can increase those skill sets. And ultimately, as we get that kind of engine up and running, I think it's going to help support the managers and allow everyone to continue to advance. We need to be supportive of one another. Obviously, that kind of goes hand in hand with being respectful as well. There are a lot of demands on us, and for whether it's going to be from the business units putting pressure on us to group putting pressure on us, we're in this together. So let's not snap at each other. We're always going to have situations that aren't going to be easy to deal with, but if we can do it in a constructive way, I think that's going to be the best approach that we can take. And I'll be stressing that with my managers. This is not something that we expect just at the lower levels. It's through and through the organization. And one of the things that Gerhard certainly emphasized with me coming into the role is that he wants us to be client-focused, and that can mean our internal clients, and it can mean external clients when we're asked to. And again, that can also take many different avenues. We would need to be supportive of the finance people and how we're delivering information in an accurate and timely way up, but it's also supporting one another and how we're providing information to our clients, again, internally. I've gotten some great feedback as I've met a lot of people on the business side over the last week, and they're not shy about mentioning names and passing along a lot of good compliments about the support that they've gotten, especially in the last 6 months when there hasn't been Bill in place and with me coming in. Again, highly complimentary, and it's just something that we want to continue to push on. So again, this is very informal. I know it's been a while since someone sat in this role, and I haven't had a chance to meet everyone, not even in this room. But over time, I will get a chance to meet everyone personally. I'll get to know your names. I'll get out to the locations. I've already scheduled something for Kansas City. I am going to be going to Zurich next week, so I'll be lost in a host of names over there. But give me some time. One thing that you did not see on these slides specifically are our goals and priorities. It's just too soon. I need to work with my management group to refine those. I need to make sure that I'm bouncing things off of Gerhard. So there will be certainly more to come as it relates to goals and priorities, but I'm sure your managers have given you plenty to keep you focused and working on in the meantime. And I thought I would open it up to questions. I did get a couple of questions which I can certainly address, and then if there's anything beyond that, I'll be happy to answer them. So the questions that I guess I'm not sure if this is the easiest way for us to do this, but there was 3 questions that were submitted. I thought I'd just go down through each of those. Okay. The first question was, what was your perspective of Swiss refinance from the outside? I had that question asked to me by the business people, but more from how was Swiss Re viewed by Gen Re? And I'll give you the same answer. Not a lot of direct knowledge as it relates to the finance specifically, but as an organization, there was a lot of respect between the 2 organizations. Swiss Re is significantly larger than Gen Re, but Swiss Re, from a Gen Re standpoint, the view that I was given by people is that they understand what they're doing. They had a good business model. They were strong from an underwriting standpoint, and while they outbid us, Gen Re, on many occasions, the approach that was taken was very well respected. The area that came up most from a Gen Re standpoint, and this was more Gen Re in my mind than Swiss Re, Gen Re was very explicit in wanting to stay with a direct business model, whereas Swiss Re is more open to working with brokers and has grown that aspect of their business significantly. And so Gen Re would say that they were the only true direct writer, and they were using that as a point of pride for themselves, but that didn't take away from the respect that people had for Swiss Re as a company. Next question was, what do you understand to be the biggest challenge in accepting this role? Well, number one, for me, it's a much bigger role than what I had, so that's a challenge in and of itself, one that I was looking for. As far as specific business issues, Fergus and I have spent a lot of time together over the last week. On the life health side, there are some real challenges on looking at the models and some of the business that's out there. There's a lot of work going on the actuarial side, and we're working very closely with them, and obviously that will have an impact on financials over time, but it's going to take a while to get through those issues. I think that again, just bringing some stability to an area that's had a lot of change over the last 2 years is going to be important. But that's not to mean that we're not going to continue to look at things, to look at processes and make sure that we can improve on things. But we're going to do it in a very thoughtful manner. And we're going to include people in those discussions to make sure that we're not just being one-sided in how we're looking at them, but that it's going to develop over time. But hopefully, again, bringing some stability will be helpful to people. And then that kind of answers the last question, which was, what changes do you anticipate making? I did not come in here with an agenda for making change. Number one, I need to get to know a lot more about the different teams that we have, the responsibilities that they have, how are those responsibilities being carried out through what processes and do they make sense. There's going to be a lot of business issues, but these things take time to get through. So I can tell you after a week and 2 days that I've met with a lot of people. Everyone's been extremely welcoming, which is great, and we're jumping right into issues, and I think that's going to continue. So I'm just going to defer potential changes. There could be, but I need to work with my management team and with others to take a look, and there'll be more to come on that, but there's no preset agenda as it relates to that. So those were the questions that were submitted. Happy to accept any other questions if anyone's willing to step up and ask. And if not, then we'll probably be doing more of these, and as I said, I will get around to the other locations, and hopefully I was thinking that for everyone here in Armonk, probably the easiest thing would be to do is to set up some small lunches with people, again, just to get to know each other, and we can do that over the coming months as well. So that's about it.
Should we go around to each of the locations and see if people have questions?
Sure.
Okay. Is anyone here in Armonk Park?
Jen, you know you can always count on me for our questions. Hi, John. George Vaughn. I'm in the FP&A team. And I was just wondering, do you have experience leading virtual teams? As you can see, obviously, from this video conference or town hall, we're kind of spread out all over the place. Just wondering what your history is with that, and if you have one or two key things from your experience in working on them.
Well, from a Gen Re standpoint, they had all of finance in one location. So I don't have a lot of experience with managing virtual offices, if you will. Gen Re had done some outsourcing, so we had some people in Bangalore. But in my role at Gen Re, did have global responsibilities as well. So there were people in London, in Germany, in Australia, and Toronto that I was dealing with on a regular basis. So while I didn't have direct responsibility for them, I had management responsibility in general. And my experience with it is obviously communication. Technology is a wonderful thing. And you guys here at Swiss Re have more than what we had at Gen Re, so that's going to help. But you can never replace it from direct communication. So showing up in some of the locations at different times is going to be helpful. But the more that we can communicate and keep those lines of communication moving, whether it's through me or through the managers, that's critical.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Fort Wayne, are you there? Do you have any questions? Lose them?
No.
I see them.
Oh, you do? Okay, good. we don't see them.
It was a question.
Okay.
I know. It was wave.
Okay.
No questions in Fort Wayne.
Oh, okay, thanks. Toronto, did you join us?
Yes.
There it goes. I guess not. Is Toronto there?
No questions.
They are there, and I don't think they have questions.
Okay. No questions. Good deal.
No questions.
Okay. And I guess if I'm going to unmute the phone, if anyone has a question. Oh, go ahead and speak up if you've got a question. Okay. I will take it that no one has questions. So I guess that is all.
What a way to end. All right, well, thank you, everyone. And again, I look forward to working with each one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I want it.